perform an activity as a job description dictates, but there are some life principles that govern both. And when you master the life principles that govern both, you will understand this all-important component of balance. Now there's an old adage, if you put one foot in boiling hot water and you put the other foot in ice cold water, on average you're miserable. You're not balanced. That's a misnomer. Everything is not relative. Some things are right, some things are wrong. Some things are black, some things are white. Some things are good, some things are bad. Relativism has been the biggest crock in postmodern societies. People say it's all relative. How many of you have heard that saying? It's all relative. What they're saying is I have lousy relatives. That's all that means. It's not all relative. My wife has never asked me if I've been relatively faithful. You either are or you're not. You ask a woman, she'll never tell you, I think I'm relatively pregnant. If you think that way, in 9 months, you're going to have a relative surprise. Some things are right, some things are wrong. So how do you get down to the brass tacks and begin to understand that there are some foundational principles? First principle, strive for progress, not perfection. Strive for progress, not perfection. Every day come to work with a desire to make a contribution that day that has nothing to do with yesterday's achievement. See, yesterday ended with last night. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Happy birthday to you. But we live out vicariously on yesterday's mistakes and never hold our hide today for tomorrow's promise. We vicariously beat ourselves up. Have you ever realized we are our own worst critic? Unless you're married. But we are our own worst critic. Now, when you understand that you are striving for progress and not perfection, you're not perfect, you're not a robot. Your manager might think so. Your colleagues might expect so. Your company might demand so. And your profession might dictate so, but you're not a robot. By the same token, you are human and you have excellence in your DNA. Zig Ziglar, my mentor, used to say, you were born to win. But in order to be the winner you were born to be, you have to plan and prepare, only then can you expect. Most people expect the end of the process while still in the middle of the process. They don't do anything for it tomorrow, and when it arrives, they wonder what happened. How many of you have actively pursued reading something you're not paid to do after you graduated from school? Okay, we got a few hands. You actively pursue reading something you're not paid to do after you graduate from school. I graduated from school, and this will surprise some of you. I tell people I'm just a young man, I have really old hair. But I'm 50 years old, I turned 50 last Friday. On average, for the last 18 years, I've read at least one book every week. I've read biographies, I've read game-changing histories, I've read novels, I've read philosophies. I've read religious books, I've read irreligious books. Have you ever noticed people who want to write books about nothingness have the biggest books? Nothingness means give me a blank page and say there's nothing in this world. But people who want to write about nothing usually have the biggest books, and they take the longest time to read. Can you imagine 365 pages trying to explain nothing? Just title the book Nothing and give 4 blank pages, I'll get the idea. But I've read 18 years, one book a week. Why? Do I want to be smart? No. Knowledge is learned, my friends. Wisdom is lived. We got more knowledge now than at any other time in human history. The largest percentage of educated derelicts walking the planet. Marginalized because they've got PhD, please help daddy. Or partial head damage. Or THDs, total head damage. I'm not against academics. I graduated top of my class. But you have to understand this. Your goal of life is to strive for progress, not perfection. When you strive for progress and not perfection, you will be liberated from one thing, and it's called ego, which is my second principle. Learn to feed your families, not your ego. feed your families, not your ego. Now, a lot of you are youngsters here, so I don't know how many of you have kids and all of the other stuff. It's not important. I have an 18-year-old son. My primary job in this world is to provide for him. I understand that. But ahead of that is my desire to bless him. I'm his father. My job is to bless my son. My role is to love my wife. My obligation is to honor my parents. My desire is to uphold my in-laws. Relationships. Dean Ornish, who did a 25-year study out of Harvard University, said, most people's lives are determined not by the success they have in the professions they have chosen, but in the way they have handled the relationships they were blessed with. How have we handled those relationships? True, you and I have had disappointments in siblings. We have had family problems due to alcohol and disease and addiction. These are normative. But make your call. Learn to feed your family, not your ego. When you put your ego on the shelf, some amazing things will happen. So the first principle we gave you was work for progress, not perfection. Second, we said feed your family, not your ego. Third, when passion is born, you will get a glimpse of your potential. How many of you were excited, or as, well, let me back up. How many of you are as excited about your job today as you were the day you got it? Isn't that amazing? And in a short while, that company is going to get you back. You're going to leave here and go back to perform for them. And you're not excited. How many of you think I love what I do? I woke up this morning at 6 o'clock and wrote my notes for you. I will never meet you again in this entire setting in my lifetime exactly as it is. I met some of you before when you came to Shishya. I'll meet some of you later on if life gives us that opportunity. But in this exact setting, we will never meet again. Yet I prepared for you today, even though I have done this talk and can do it with my eyes closed. Why? Character. If you want workplace excellence, understand the word character. Character is the ability to have pride in the mundane. Mundane is what you do every day. Character is the ability to prepare yourself for excitement, to do something with gusto, even if it were the 150th time you were doing it. Otherwise, stop doing it. See, if you just want to go from womb to tomb, then you need a job. What is job? Just over broke. If you want a dental benefit and a mental benefit, there are enough people that will hire you. But you're talking about survival. Getting a paycheck, you're talking about stability. I'm talking about success and significance. Success and significance comes when you have that character, that pride in the mundane. Pablo Casals was a world-famous cello player, musical instrument. Long after it achieved fame and fortune, someone said, "Why do you keep practicing?" He said, "I think I'm making progress." Thomas Edison was arguably the greatest inventor of our times. In 1906, in West Orange, New Jersey, his entire lab burned to the ground. And a negative reporter, apparently negative reporters existed back in 1906, they just don't exist today. It's apparently been a century-old tradition. This negative reporter said, "Mr. Edison, how does it feel to see your life's work destroyed?" Edison's answer is genius. He said, "For the first time in my life, all my mistakes are burned." That's character. See, that's why history says a bad mathematics student in school has been classified by humanity as the greatest inventor of all times. That requires character. So when you get a glimpse of your potential, that's when passion is born. People say, "No, I need to learn everything, then I'll get excited." No, the train leaves the station.